Good evening and happy holidays. Whatever holiday you're celebrating, it's okay with me. I hope you're having fun. Tonight, Hungary's 4IG plunks down 100 million for Axiom. They could certainly use it. A Rocket Lab signed a huge new deal. Astrobotics signed a $17.5 million deal with NASA for making some reusables for them. We've got two NATO intel services that believe wholeheartedly Russia is developing a new anti-satellite weapon to specifically target Starlink. And we'll be talking about that. There's more news popping up on the SpaceX IPO next year. The Daily Caller, of all places, finally lauded Trump on his America First space policy. Finally, he agrees on something that we agree with. VAST asked scientists for research proposals, so they're looking at taking that seriously. We're going to explore a concept very quickly called sovereign capacity, which is usually a government thing, and see whether it can apply to the private sector. And of course, we'll look at the first commercial energy purchase agreement for space operations, all that, and our special holiday mystery guest. No, I'm still not going to tell you. From the news desk, the Center for Space, Commerce, and Finance, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson, and this is The Unknown Quantity. And as you know, of course, like always, this program is sponsored by the Center for Space, Commerce, and Finance. And what do we do? Well, of course, you know, we champion and strengthen emerging space startups and space-adjacent enterprises worldwide through advisory and access and advocacy. And our pitch events and world-class boot camps fortify startups to be better investor-ready. Now, a lot of our work, especially this podcast, is supported by listeners and fans like you. Remember, the Center is a 501c3 nonprofit, and this is the time of year where we ask everyone to dig deep. Our annual appeal letter is posted on our site. I hope you'll read it. We invite you to check out in that news and blog section. There's a lot of other great things there. And while you're there, you read that too. That's all good stuff. And thank you in advance for all your help. Now, my oldest space friend, Michael Lane, who just caught a pair of golden fish, is here with us. Come on in, Michael. And you have a hat. I don't have a hat. How you doing?
I have a hat. I have the sparklies and the Santa Claus in a spacesuit on
there you go.
the moon.
So, look at this. He's all in for the holiday. This is great.
I definitely am winning the nerdy Christmas sweater competition.
And you got the halo thing also.
Yeah,
it actually fits now. The holiday season.
Right.
Back.
How's things? What's going on? Hey, how's your friend doing?
He's doing okay. He's doing okay. We had a rough day. It was like a big day trip to Jacksonville and back. Okay. And unfortunately, they actually, this time around, used the P word, which is palliative in medical parlance. That's not
great.
New things to think about and new ways of just kind of making things happen. He's just trying to stay alive a few more months so he could sue the insurance company. There's a long story behind that, but he's determined. He's like full focus of hatred and energy, and we're just focused right on that. Get them. I'm going to get them. You know, and so I've been watching him go through this the last couple of years, and it's just horrendous what they put him through. Those people put him through.
Well, and now taking care of your friend. That's great.
Yeah. I'm doing God's work. I think it's like at least I feel that way when I'm there. I got some more to do first week of January. So
right on. All right.
They're off the hook for a while, but bucks are trickling in for the Center.
Cool.
And a nice one from someone we know, and so it's we have some budget and. So that's why I brought it up with you guys. Let's talk about what we need to do to make some more things happen, do marketing, whatever you want to do.
And I don't know who these people are, but I'm just going to say to our benefactors, thank you so much. This is really important.
And Absolutely.
Goes for a good cause. So that's good to hear. That's good to hear.
And Joe Luttrell is already with us. And hi, Joe. And he
Hey.
says that InnoSpace is about to launch their first orbital rocket in about 10 minutes.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I suspect he has got other things he's going to be paying attention to. So, Joe, we will miss you, but you've got a lot riding on that machine. So, fingers crossed. Yeah.
That's sounding great.
So do I.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate that. Let's maybe see if we can keep an eye on that thing during the show and report back.
Absolutely. Okay, jump right into news.
Yeah, jump into it.
Yeah, there's stuff going on. We're not going to take a lot of time on it because it's a lot of the usual stuff in this time of year. But I thought it was very interesting. Starting right up front, Hungary's 4IG, which is a big investment firm, and they're putting $100 million into Axiom.
That is cool.
Yeah,
did not.
It's equity. They're selling equity. I knew they were having problems for a while. But,
no, they have. They've been bleeding cash.
Well, this is a big thing for them.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already discussed how they could have done things differently and save the necessity of doing equity, but they got it. Good for them. I support their effort in toto, but
well, okay. I'm gonna do it. I'm not pulling punches here.
Okay.
So we got a space station company that with an impeccable NASA heavy board and team switches gears to focus on spacesuits because it's a multi-$100 million contract to do that.
Yep.
Now they're pivoting to artificial intelligence, machine learning, and wait for it, in orbit cloud computing and data storage. So this $100 million doesn't go to core mission.
No,
they are still spreading their mission even wider, even more diversified. I don't necessarily think like they need the money for sure, but
what are they spending it on? Are you kidding me?
Sorry, say again. Sorry. I said it may or may not be good news, right? Like
right.
I don't know if this is a pivot or an add-on but I do wonder how they sold it. I do. I'm curious how they pulled that together because
they gave it a name. Now there's some bunch of and they're just doing a contribution to it. So I guess there's Kepler Communications, Skyloom, and God knows who else are building the ODC. It's the ODC. It's like the gateway that we don't have to pay for anymore. Right. That was the best news story that week. Gateway just got handed off to the Europeans. It's okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Orbital data centers.
Oh God.
Okay.
We're going to have fun with this.
I mean, so wait a second. There's still more of that story though. So Budapest making an investment at $100 million. Also, I did not see that coming. Right.
Yeah.
So it's cool, right? The world is moving to space.
Oh yeah, and we'll be coming back to that topic, I'm sure, with our mystery guest later in the program. Rocket Lab's always in the news again. They just signed a big deal with a space agency. I think it's in New Zealand too, isn't it?
Yep.
I think it's their space agency.
It's part of our missile defense program.
Okay. And this is $816 million. That's pretty good.
Yep.
That's pretty good. It's going to manufacture 18 satellites equipped with advanced sensors to track and detect missile threats, including hypersonic missiles of the kind recently developed by Russia. Be afraid. And they're leading the charge in that, and they're going to be using some of our facilities to launch from soon. So that's a good deal for them. and
they built a lot of infrastructure at Wallops Island out in Virginia. So this is kind of
right.
Where they should be, and this has done good things for their stock. I don't remember what the numbers are, but they had a nice bump in the stock, which is ironic because the week before they had a big drop in their price. So that was one of those moments where it's like buy the dip.
Yep, absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely, and that's something. Just as a aside, that's something we should probably be putting together for the next week's show. Is all the is get a list running of all the companies that we've been tracking and following, and just show them their okay. Here's where it was. Here's where their stock was. Here, show a little chart.
Yeah,
and make it. Look at it. Okay, these guys did this. These guys did that. These guys went way up here. These guys went down. And just show it. That this is 2025 in a nutshell, folks. Right here from our perspective. And so maybe we should do that. Put that together. Okay, what else is going on? Astrobotic.
Yep, cool.
They just got a $17.5 million deal to test and expand reusable rockets. So it's an SBIR, and they're upgrading their Zodiac and Zogdor vehicles.
So reminding people that that vehicle actually had its start not from the X Prize, not from the Google Lunar X Prize, but from the Northrop Grumman Prize that the X Prize managed. This is Maston's stuff.
Yep.
This is the remains of Maston's. Right. Maston was bought by Astrobotic early in the year, late last year, early in the year, this year, and so this is what's happening. I do wonder how they're talking about a federal SBIR grant when the SBIR program has been.
We're decapitated right now until Congress locks something in.
Yeah, so I don't really understand that.
Yep. But I guess they had 14 million left in the kitty to upgrade, Zogdor or whatever it is.
Right.
And so, but I like what they're doing, and I just want to shout out to them.
Sure.
Now, here's the weirdest story of the week, I think. This is the weirdest story of the week. It says 2 NATO nation intelligence services suspect, I'm just quoting directly, Russia is developing a new anti-satellite weapon to target Elon Musk's Starlink constellation with destructive orbiting clouds of shrapnel, with the aim of reining in Western space superiority that has helped Ukraine on the battlefield. Pardon my Cronkite imitation.
Yeah.
It's.
I think that's wild.
It sounds vaguely important. It's one of the terms we use, but I'm not sure why yet. Is it real?
Oh no, it's real.
They call it a zone effect weapon.
The chief science officer of Space Force back in 2018-19, Dr. Mosier, was talking about that technology 5 years ago, 8 years ago. Now, to particularly target SpaceX is a big deal, right? Like, I don't know if that's an act of war, but it kind of sounds like an act of war if they employ that. But reminding people, Russia is the only nation that has used a anti-satellite weapon twice, right? America, India, and China have all done it as a proof of capacity, but Russia has done it twice as a proof of willingness.
Yeah, right? It's an old tech. And as Shover mentions in the comments, I was going to mention it too. This goes all the way back to a Brilliant Pebbles concept. 40 years ago from the Reagan Star Wars program. And so, except the only thing this can really do in modern day, when we look at modern problems in orbit and beyond, all this thing is going to do if he deploys it, Putin, is create chaos. Right. Just create orbital chaos not just for him, not just for Starlink, but for everybody.
Right. Yeah. It's chaos, absolutely. And that when China did their anti-satellite test, they did it with a high orbit, a high inclination hit. So the debris went high on purpose, right? Because
Yeah.
China's smart enough to know what they're doing. That was a denial. That was a denial attack. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is kind of in the same boat. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And so once again, you're standing up to your ankles in gasoline, and you both have a match. You know.
Well, okay. So I'm gonna put on my Dr. Evil, Dr. No hat for a second. So,
Okay.
look, let's fast forward into 2026.
Yep.
SpaceX does a $1.5 trillion IPO, and then the Russian oligarchs short SpaceX and launch their pebbles, right? I'm just saying that is a movie script, right?
Yep.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you what, and that if we're really thinking that stuff's happened, let's have some fun next week. I'll cover this thing in tin foil, and I'll wear it with you. We'll have some fun.
Right on.
Yeah, I didn't expect that one, but it makes perfect sense.
Right. It's
not just the Russian oligarchs, but China too, in the Hang Seng market.
Let's all get in on that game, right?
Yeah.
it is in the terms of Department of Defense an exquisite target. That's what they call them. The big juicy ones are called exquisite targets.
Yeah, and the Euros would probably do it too. They probably short everything too, just because they don't like Musk either, and they're kind of elitist dicks. Yeah, so they're going to do it.
You could wait. I would wait until we're public, and then bomb the shit out of orbit, and there you go. Sean is telling us move on.
Yeah, he's telling move on. Well, these are just three things in a row. They're both about the IPO, and just some information about that. They're preparing for a public offering probably by the middle of next year, but they think it'll be larger than all these other companies, maybe even combined. It's going to be huge. What do you say? 1.8, 1.6 trillion. And I think 40% of that
number that can posted
is Musk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We don't know that much more than we did last, but
I didn't. I do know one thing. I didn't put it on the list because it's such a short article. But there's inside track on the street says that Morgan Stanley is seen as the front runner in this.
That's worthy of a Christmas bonus. Whomever lands that contract is going to have a good day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
JP Morgan just last week put Bezos on their advisor list. So I think that kind of automatically pushes JP Morgan off the list because there's too much rivalry there. So
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Let's get to your piece, the one that I was surprised to see.
Oh, the Daily Caller piece. Yeah, that thing is so damn funny. Just because I like the title of it specifically. Trump finds pet project that's actually worthwhile. An America First space policy. And so of course, and we know from this, we've already talked about this. His new policy calls for he shifted his focus back to the moon. He wants to be on the moon by 2028 and establish initial elements of a permanent lunar outpost by 2030. And
did you just go silent? Yep, you just went silent. Well, I will finish reading it. We're looking to have so this all came out in the executive order that we got a couple days ago, but it's a pretty good read, that executive order. One thing I was a little disappointed about was that they're killing the National Space Council. Pence was really into space. It doesn't look like J.D. Vance is as interested. And usually that space is part of the vice president's portfolio. So I'm guessing that's why the National Space Council has been cut. But the rest of the program, the rest of the executive order is quite good and quite impressive. So it's worth looking at. We could probably put a link on it. Yeah, I see that. I'm not sure where he is, but I'm sure he will be back soon. I think he's texting me. So let me just pause for a moment. Yep. All right. So they are solving it. So I'm just going to keep going with the news. Sean, give me control over the. I'm going to just finish up the news here.
Get.
So we talked about this a little bit the other day, that Vast is trying to Vast is trying to build out their capabilities for a space station. They're moving remarkably fast. I can't believe how fast they're moving. And they're looking to have 168 astronaut days on board by 2026, second quarter of 2026. So they're actually looking for experiments to go up there. I'm kind of pondering whether or not to submit for that. So I think it's kind of cool.
Here's the thing.
This company's
so much I probably mentioned it when I was offline briefly for a second, but like I think also their idea is see what kind of proposals they get from their RFPs, and then the words that you always see in real estate advertising: "We'll build to suit."
Right.
They might accept, if there's enough interest, there's enough money floating around, they might just, they might do that. They might redesign things just to, suit the customers, which is. You want private enterprise and entrepreneurship to be nimble and quick and agile like that. So this could be a good thing.
Yep.
Which means if they're taking the lead on that, there's going to be other people who want to build private space stations that might do the same thing too. And it just spurs more competition before they've even launched one.
Yeah. All right. You want to move on, or you want to bring on a guest in?
Well, let's see what we have. Let me give me just a second. I wanted to. Well, I guess we're not. Maybe next time we can cover this. Just some other day. There's a great space review article.
Let's do the sovereign capacity next week, and then the power grid one we covered. So let's bring.
Okay, you've covered that one. Okay, that's fine. Great. Yep. Gone. It's gone. Yep. We're good. Okay, I've kept the secret. I didn't know the secret myself until I logged in just before the show, and so. Our guest tonight for this, I think he's the second time on the show, and he's quite smart and he's quite accomplished. And his favorite pet peeve right now, you're going to find out about, and we're going to rant about that together for the next 35 or minutes or so. Shubber Ali coming in, the original space cynic. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Tom. Good to see you again. Hey, Michael.
Good to see you. Are you gonna be around in March for Satellite?
I will actually. Yeah.
Good. Then we will hook up.
We'll have our lunch again there. Yes.
Good. Absolutely. Good. I had to nail that down first. So
yes. Send me the invite. I'll put it in the calendar.
Okay. Okay. So we let off with a story that ties into what you want to talk about. Axiom got this funding, and they're going to apply God knows how much of it to building a space data center.
No, they're not. But we'll come back to that because I actually want to go through some of your news items first because there's so much. I was just scribbling notes while you guys were talking.
Right on.
So,
turning Shubber loose in 3, 2, 1.
There we go. It's like weekend update. All right,
Yeah.
so I'm going to start with Hungary. They're the easy one to explain, the 100 million.
Uh-huh.
When everybody is throwing money into hyped things, everybody assumes somebody else somewhere has done due diligence, and so they just kind of skip that step and just say, "Oh, we got to get into this too." You know, in the 1700s, they called that the tulip bubble.
Yes.
So,
Tulip mania.
and tulip mania, and it's not like this hasn't happened before and won't happen again. To quote another great sci-fi show. But did you get the reference?
Sorry.
Did you get the reference, the sci-fi reference?
Yeah.
This has all happened
There's so
before,
much-
and it will all happen again.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
The Galactica reboot. There's nothing there. It's a gigantic nothing burger. But I actually want to talk about it's interesting, the Brilliant Pebbles thing and SpaceX, right? So I don't know if you remember or if you ever read Buzz Aldrin's book, The Return. I still have my signed copy somewhere on one of my boxes in my basement.
I have it on the shelf over there.
Yeah. Now, if I recall the plot correctly, North Korea sent a nuke into space, and essentially the pulse, the wave, all of that just did all kinds of havoc up there, including, of course, damaging ISS, and the astronauts had to be rescued, right? Which is part of his whole thing about building a reusable rocket, which we'll come to a bit later. But this idea of shooting stuff into space to cripple our assets, yes, they could do that to SpaceX, obviously, and it would not be like it's pretty much impossible to prevent. They can also do it to our entire like defense infrastructure as well. As hardened as they are, they're not that hardened,
Right.
and that actually now is our Achilles heel because we're so dependent on that technology, right?
Mhm.
If you just said if we all went back to 1950s, 1960s style technology, would we be able to win a war? And the answer, I think, is no, right? So the idea that they can send up, this is, I think, why we've never taken on North Korea directly, because they already have the capability to shoot straight up. They might not be able to reach us, but they can reach that, and
Right.
they can fire off 5 nukes into space, and GPS goes, there goes our telco network, there goes our utilities grid, there goes a whole bunch of stuff,
Yep.
and they can decapitate us. Would we nuke them? Sure, doesn't matter. Like
The damage is
you wouldn't
done.
recognize damage is done, and
Right.
and there would be no one there to pick up the pieces. So they could effectively cripple the U.S., which is why they, any country with half a brain goes, the best way to keep the U.S. off our backs is to have our own nuke, right? So SpaceX itself, the $1.4 trillion IPO, I really struggle with this because you know me, I always go back to basic economics, right? It's all supply and demand. It's all like and I'm a simple MBA here, but I look at it and I say, when I was in business school, I learned this thing called PE ratios, and PE ratio was the
Yep.
price of your stock is a function of how much money you make plus the growth built into that stock. Well, at some point, growth stops, then you become a mature stock. Growth stocks command a 30 to 40 PE. Mature stocks get a 10, right? And that's tied to whatever the current interest rate is at the time, the risk-free rate. Well, 1.4 trillion. Now, I know that they're not a rocket company. They're actually a telco that happens to have a rocket company that made them possible.
Right.
But
Yep.
even as a telco, a $1.4 trillion telco seems like a really, really big stretch.
We talked about we skipped this on today, but we talked about it the other day. They are larger. This would put them larger than Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed, and one other. Like they're like 6 major aerospace companies combined don't hit that number.
Right. And so if you just look at the launch business itself, yeah, they have the reusable rockets, and that gives them the ability to create Starlink. But as a rocket business, you can actually measure the size of the rocket business, and it's not a $1.4 trillion business, not by any stretch of the imagination. Right. There's just not enough stuff to put up there. And that's why they're putting their own stuff up to create a telco, because that actually, there's a proven market globally for people who want access to last mile for internet, whatever else. And now they're putting on airplanes, which is kind of cool because, it's a heck of a lot faster than what was there before. I've had it once on an airplane, and it was like night and day in terms of capability. It's like comparing current internet on most planes to the old airphones. If you remember the GTE earphones, it's kind of like that.
Right.
That's and trying to, that's exactly, I had it on United once, and then every other United flight I've been on is that crappy, like, thin bandwidth Wi-Fi. I'm like, what the hell is this? But the hype bubbles, what's interesting is they keep moving from hype to hype to hype because, and I'm going to come back to this podcast later that I've been listening to that really, really digs into this in great detail. It's because a growth stock can't stop being a growth stock or the stock price crashes. As soon as it goes from growth to mature, all that extra 20 to 30 on the multiple goes away. And if you're executives and your compensation is tied to options, then what do you want? You want the stock price to go up, not go down, right?
Yeah,
and nobody wants to be at the helm of like Campbell's Soup when they can be at the helm of, a fast-growing tech company. The problem with that is they keep jumping from hype thing to hype thing, hoping that something will keep the story going of here's what's coming next. So for Meta, it was the metaverse. Well, anybody remember the metaverse, right? Came and went. Nothing ever came.
No one knows about the metaverse.
Right.
It's like, why are they called Meta? Well, there's two reasons they're called Meta. One, because they wanted to get rid of the Facebook name because it was tied to Cambridge Analytica, and everybody's already forgotten about that down the memory hole. But two is because metaverse, right? And they were like, hey, we'll be snow crash in real life, right? Okay, well, whatever. But they didn't, because it turns out nobody wants to talk to Zuckerberg's avatar. And I mean, I still remember like 7 years ago, he tried to do a smart home, and they never went back to it because he figured out he couldn't do it. So they need something to hype it. So now it's all AI all the time. But if you've seen the drivel that is on all of these platforms, it's crazy how much has happened there. The last one to get to, and then we'll go to the my actual pet peeve right now, which is when Tom was alluding to, is the private space stations. So do I think they're a good idea? Yes and no. Yes, because NASA clearly doesn't know how to run one. And I don't say that as a criticism of NASA. I say bureaucracy and government, like procurement and manifesting and everything else that goes with it, made ISS impossible to do actual business on. Right?
We had six proposals with a champion inside to shepherd us, and nothing happened. Nothing. Yeah,
of course not. And Tom knows I did this. So in 1998, I led the study for the prime contractor on the commercialization of ISS. And I talked to 73 heads of R&D, and so either chief R&D officer or SVP of R&D of the Fortune 100. So like, if anybody's going to say, yeah, we're going to use it, it would have been these people across many different industries. Out of 73, do you know how many actually said, yeah, we'd be interested in using it?
I can't think of any.
Zero.
None.
Zero.
Right.
Yeah.
So of course I couldn't just give a one-page slide back and say, here's your $250,000 study. So instead, I went back to them and said, okay, why not? And this is where it became very illuminating, because then we highlighted the top 10 reasons. It was like a David Letterman thing. It was like, here's the top 10 reasons why no one ever wants to use ISS. And it was everything you could think of, like manifesting cycles versus industry life cycles, lack of an actual price sheet, right? No one knew what it cost to have astronaut time or rack space, or like no clear specs on what the racks did, right? Before, nanoracks and the rest like actually tried to make this easier to understand. It was a nightmare, right? So there were all these reasons why it didn't make sense. But one of the biggest
what was the year for that? When did you do that study?
98.
98. Oh, that was like the dinosaurs and Flintstones days. Okay.
Yeah, this is before like the fourth module got bolted on, right?
Okay.
Because certain people in the industry were starting to get nervous that they were going to be held responsible if it didn't deliver on the promise. Because remember, Dan Golden promised Congress that industry was lined up to use it. And yes, so Sean's comment on the side here is correct. Government's not meant to be a profit center, but government's also not designed to run a business. And in the case of ISS, it was sold to Congress when they were within one vote of getting canceled that this would be a business, that industry wanted to use this thing, and the money was there. And so they committed $100 billion in life cycle costs to a lie. And so the biggest thing was they said, oh, well, look at how much, it's the, I know we can't really say Chinese math anymore, partly because India has a bigger population now, but let's use Indian math for a moment. You take a large number, you multiply by a small percent, and you still have a big number, and people go, oh, but that's plausible because it's only a small percent. No, it's not. It's not plausible at all in any stretch of the imagination. You have to work from the bottom up. So what they did was they said, we spent 80, and this is back in 1995, $96, right? So you have to kind of adjust for inflation and all the rest of that. But in $1995, we spent in the US roughly $80 billion on R&D. And they said, well, ISS is only looking to cover a third of their operating costs, which at the time would have been $400 million, because they spent $1.2 billion on operating costs. They said, we can spend $400 million. Of that will come from commercial users. Now that sounds kind of plausible, right? You're like, okay, well, that's only, half of 1% of the R&D in the US.
Yeah.
But it's still a lot to cram into a tiny little laboratory in space.
Mhm.
Except it was also a gigantic freaking lie. And here's why. Because that $80 billion wasn't all one kind of R&D. There's actually 3 different kinds of R&D. There's basic R&D, which is you doing like science. There's applied R&D, where you say, well, can I do something with this? And then there's production R&D, which is, how do I make this at scale, right? Okay, so I figure out how to make a contact lens in 0G. I might be able to do one, but if I want to make like 1 million of them, you need to actually set up a production R&D line, right?
Right.
If you look at that 80 billion, only 8 billion of it was actually basic R&D. The rest of it was applied in production. Only basic could be done on ISS. So now you're saying 5% of all the basic R&D in the country is
Right.
going to be done in that one little laboratory floating around up there by 6 astronauts?
Nope.
And I mean, it doesn't make any sense on the face of it. So that's the kind of like, okay, is there actual demand? Sure, there's demand. I don't know how much there is. I haven't looked at this in years. But a private station is more likely to pull it off, assuming they can get the rest of the logistics working, which requires, cheap, reusable access to space, regular manifesting cycles, low price point, blah, blah, blah. All that,
Down
all that
mass
stuff.
because you need to get the product back home. Yep.
Yeah, and you're not going to use that thing, by the way, because it doesn't exist.
Right.
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 But it looks nice on the wall.
Yeah, I'm so glad I grabbed that poster back in the day when they were a client, because like that's a collector's item right there.
I can't see. I can see the shape, but I can't see the logo.
Oh.
Who is it?
Oh, well, this is sorry, I have to bring it down for you just so you can see up close. Someday I'll donate this to some museum. I don't know if you can see it without the reflection, but this is.
Oh, wow, okay, yeah.
This is Venture Star. This
Yeah,
is a replacement for the space shuttle.
Wow.
Yeah, the one that never got built. Remember all the titanium they sucked up from the golf market?
Don't remember that, but that's
So the golf club prices went through the roof because Lockheed was going to make this whole thing out of titanium, like the fuel tanks and the rest, to lower the weight, right? Because they wanted to do like 6 different impossible things in one spaceship: a linear aerospace engine, of course the metallic thermal protection system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, okay, so let's talk about the.
Wait. Before we move away from commercial space stations, do you have anything to add about Axiom directly, or just space stations in general? I'm really interested in commercial space stations. But
it always comes down to, okay, but who's using it and for what? That's always the question, right? And for how much, and ultimately that's a business case. It's kind of like when they did the wake shield experiment back in the late 80s, early 90s off the shuttle, where they had the ultra pure vacuum they created behind literally it was like a giant trash can lid, and they dragged it through space and created an ultra pure vacuum behind it. And they proved they could grow, I think it was like gallium arsenide chips in ultra pure vacuum that were better than anything you can make on the Earth. Okay, that's great. So you've proven you can do it. But now to manufacture chips in space is a whole different
problem. Yeah.
Whole different problem, right? So it'll be interesting to see what basic R&D they do up there. And I think life sciences has some interesting applications, but proofs in the pudding. I'm happy for them. I'm glad that they've got a shot at it, and this is the kind of stuff that does need to get more funding, right? See what happens. Not data centers,
right? Yeah, I mean that's a whole nother topic. But we had proposed building carbon nanotubes in space, which.
Yes.
Because of lower gravity, when you're constructing at the atomic scale, if the atom falls this way, it's a good nanotube, and if it falls this way, it's a bad nanotube.
The space elevator hits the ground really fast.
Right. Yeah. So we right. So I mean, we had some proposals in. So material sciences we thought could be mass producible on orbit given the right environment. That was information from 2009, 10.
Yep.
Cases was running the show. They had only just gotten started. Don't have a lot of good things to say about Cases.
But here's the thing.
I have a lot of good things to say about some of the individuals. They've done well, but as an organization, Cases did not. They did not run the national lab.
And again, even with something like that, manufacturing it at scale would require the one thing that wasn't solved for until 5 to 6 years later, which was cheap, reliable, reusable access to space, which we finally have now, and we're getting more and more of, which is only a good thing.
Yeah.
And that actually gets me to a problem. Like, so now I'm going to get on my soapbox for the ranting part, which
Great.
you promised,
Yes.
right? This is your
Now,
thing. Okay.
this is
So
why
I'm going to start with why I have come to the point that I have a love-hate relationship with LinkedIn, because LinkedIn has become, well, it was already kind of the Facebook of business, which was terrible because people are like, come on, this is actually your business profile. Stop posting like you're like on
Right.
Facebook
Right.
or X or whatever. But most of the posts I see now are actually, and it's so obvious once you like, I can identify the parsing and the voice and the spacing of an AI generated post. That's all I see now. It's just AI generated posts that people are pretending to like, oh, look at this great thing I wrote. It's like, you didn't write that. ChatGPT wrote that, or Claude wrote that, or Gemini. I mean, it's like, it's so obvious. But the worst part is it's all become this crazy tech boosterism, particularly focused now. And maybe it's just the algorithm is broken. And so all I get now is data centers in space all the time. But it's like, they just know that it pisses me off. And I have to, yes, it's my favorite subject. And I have to actually respond to that, because so much money is going into utter, excuse my French, can I actually
Oh,
Say,
yeah.
we are not a PG program.
the most colossally fucking stupid thing I've ever heard, right? It's like nobody's ever taken a freshman physics class and understands what the Stefan Boltzmann equation is. It's like, and then like the people's comments, when you comment on somebody's post and say this is not going to work and here's why, the responses are, and I'm just going to pick a few in particular that came up. One was, I kid you not, but space is cold.
On one side, not on the other. That's kind of how that works.
Okay. First off, you need to understand what heat actually is, which is molecules vibrating. If you don't understand that, you don't understand why space is not cold. Yep. Space is just a flippin' vacuum. There's nothing to radiate the heat out with in the traditional sense. Okay, so we'll come back to the whole heat thing later. But then ones are, well, but Starlink was impossible. Like, no, teledesic was impossible. Starlink was not impossible. The difference is Starlink had SpaceX. Mm-hmm. Without a reusable rocket, Starlink is impossible.
Right.
For economic reasons, not because you couldn't put 10,000 satellites in space, but you would go bankrupt doing it. Iridium already proved that 30 years ago. Motorola is smart enough to set them up as a separate company and just take their cash, but offload the debt to Iridium. But Iridium burned $5 billion to prove that putting satellites in space is expensive if you don't have a reasonable rocket.
Right? And they went bankrupt 4 times. And when they finally
one loses count,
it was a 1,000-to-1 ratio. Like,
yeah.
It wasn't a penny on the dollar. It was a penny on $10.
Yeah, but a mil. One mil.
When they finally came out of...
and I will say that actually when they first went bankrupt the first time and they were being sold for $25 million, when it was a $5 billion asset for $25 million, I was like, if somebody was really smart in, say, I don't know, like North Korea, Iran, or one of these places, they'd set up a front company, they'd buy it through that, and then they would just keep them in orbit. And then whenever they wanted, deorbit one into a city, right? Because what are they? Those 66 inbound missiles.
We're on a roll with this, like, Bond villain.
But like this is the whole. I mean, this is the whole Heinlein moon is a harsh mistress and all that as well. It's like you can't stop that stuff from coming down.
Right.
So it's a meeting of Spectre, right? Mr. Pink. Okay, so continuing with, so I know StarCloud raised $34 million, if I remember correctly. They made an announcement. I was just reading the article recently about this, that they're going to deliver 10 gigawatts in 2032 at 3 cents a kilowatt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been. Hanson tried to
tell you private smoke it right
years ago. Yeah. I can bring it down. I can do a solar power thing. I can bring it down for 3 cents a kilowatt. No,
right.
You can't. The analysts at the time were saying you need at least 84 cents to break even.
So here's the part. I'm going to pull my whiteboard. I don't know if you'll be able to see this here, but this is the part I was saying.
I want to
do some math.
Okay, I want to say something about StarCloud though before you go off on this rant, because I really want to hear your rant. So. Yes. Philip is a local guy. He's a local Seattle guy.
Yeah.
And he has a crazy resume. Master's degree from 3 different Ivies, Yale, Harvard, and Wharton. He was the class president at Harvard, and then went on to work at McKinsey. And I've known him for, I don't know him well. I've had 2 conversations with him, right? But he has gone from 10,000 followers to 50,000 followers in 6 months. And if one person is responsible for this data centers in space idea, this is the guy. He has made a dozen billionaires drink the Kool-Aid.
Well, and so here's the thing. I'm going to just quote from one of my favorite people. I'm actually rereading one of his books now that I highly recommend everybody, if you haven't read it, The Demon Haunted World, which is by Carl Sagan. So he had a great quote where he said, "The fact that some geniuses were laughed at does not imply that all who were laughed at are geniuses. They laughed at Columbus, they laughed at Fulton, they laughed at the Wright brothers, but they also laughed at Bozo the Clown." The reason I bring that up is that, smart people can still have dumb ideas, and let me explain why this is important. Because there's a whole generation of people who, and those who know me for a while know that I hate analogies, particularly in the space industry. When people bring up railroads and all this other crap back in the 90s and other things, they're using analogies. The problem with analogies is they don't work, right? There's like one thing that might be in common, but then like 10,000 things that aren't. Oh yeah, well we'll go to Mars, but just like the homesteaders go. I'm like, when the homesteaders went to the Rockies, they didn't bring their air and their soil and their water with them, right? It's like, it's just, so a lot of people grew up watching things like this, which I did as well, and awesome show, totally unrealistic, right? And the moon did not, in fact, fly all over the galaxy, and whatever. But anyways, the point being, can you put a satellite up and can you process some data in it? Sure, we've been doing that for decades. There's nothing new there. That's not a growth story. This idea that you're going to move 5 gigawatts, 10 gigawatts, 20 gigawatts of processing power up into orbit is a smokescreen on 2 levels. One, because a lot of places are getting really pissed about data centers being built in their backyard, because it is jacking up electricity prices. It is consuming water, especially when they put it in places that really don't have the water to consume in the first place. And it's creating all kinds of localized problems. Like there's actually a big data center they're trying to build right now near us, and it's getting voted down, as it has been in other places, because people are like, I don't want that in my backyard. So they have to distract by saying, oh, but we're gonna put them up in space. So just give us some time. They do this hand waving thing that pretends like, oh, it's all gonna be okay. Just give us a little bit of time to get there, right? I don't think it's gonna be an issue for a different reason, which is that the AI bubble is gonna pop long before that happens. But the data centers themselves in space violate a fundamental premise. Putting a small satellite up that can process some stuff online is fine. When you try to do this for 5 gigawatts of power, ISS has what, about 200 kilowatts of power on there? And look at the radiators they have to have on the thing in low Earth orbit. And yeah, so some people are like, oh, well, because I was saying, you're going to have to put it at a higher orbit as well, right? LEO is not a place to put a 5 kilometer square array unless you want to rip it apart by every satellite flying by, right? And then what you have is just a lot of debris. So, okay, you have to put it at a higher orbit. Then you get to the second problem. When was the last time we had an astronaut above LEO?
The first one in 50 years is going up next month, 2 months from now. The first one in 50 years.
First one in 50 years, right? Yeah. Have we done a lot of construction then up in MEO or LEO with people?
No, not really.
Why? Because they would get killed by radiation, right? You can't stay up there very long. You got to fly up and go past it and come back, right? So, okay, so you're going to build this thing autonomously. Have we ever constructed anything autonomously in space and at the scale of what they're talking about? No. So they hand wave engineering problems and pretend that they're like, oh, but it's just engineering. We've solved this. Look at what SpaceX did was impossible until they did it, right? Then they start bringing up these metaphors and they're like, or analogies. They're like, oh, but it's been done. It was never done before. No one believed it. I'm like, yeah, Delta Clipper did it in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. We were on track to have a bunch of reusable rockets back in the 90s, and the internet came along and blew up that entire industry. All the money went into the dot-com boom. that was just starting to go into space companies back then. Remember the Kisslers and the Pioneers
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
Rotaries
yeah,
and the Space
yeah.
Access and the rest. I mean, there were companies that were doing this. Even
Poof.
Buzz had one, Starcraft
Yeah.
Whistles, right? And people were trying to do reusable because they knew you had to change the economics. People didn't think Elon could do it, except for all the engineers who worked there, because they knew you could do it, but you still had to make it work. And it took them, what, 3 crashes before they finally got it to stick the landing?
Yep.
And then once they did it, rinse and repeat, and they ate up, Boeing and Lockheed are long since gone. ULA is on the sale block.
Tony
et cetera, et
Bruno
cetera.
left today.
He just quit today. Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
quit today. Yeah.
Right,
So
but like they could have done it. They could have done it. Boeing could have done this. Lockheed could have done it, but their business models didn't require it, and
Right.
the dinosaurs didn't see a reason to change a very profitable Delta II line or a Delta IV or an Atlas V. So why would they change it? Because they didn't understand that when you had cheap access, you could build a Starlink. But again, back in the 90s, people didn't have broadband, so there wasn't a need for it the way it was, in 2015. It's all about timing. I mean, there was a great TED Talk. The single biggest driver of success in a startup company is not the management, it's not the ideas, it's timing.
Right place,
Right?
right
That's
time.
all it is. Right place, right time. So we'll come back to the AI bubble, right? Because so they're talking about
wait. We're running out of time, and I'm dying to see your. So you'll on your screen, it's reversed. So you're gonna have to walk people through it. No, it's the camera.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. But you're gonna have to walk people through it.
So this is a Stefan Boltzmann constant, which is just a constant, right? It's a number. A is the surface area of the array that has to radiate the energy. There you go. It's fixed now.
There you go. Thanks.
And then T is the temperature at which it's radiating at, right?
Okay.
Those 3 things then define how much you're able to radiate out in terms of energy. When you do the calculations for a 5 gigawatt data center to drop off that much heat that's being generated by those, really, really power hungry GPUs, you need an array that is almost 5 square kilometers in size. We have never built anything close to that in space, period. So it's just hype and crack smoking. But the worst part is there's a certain kind of this weird billionaire bromance thing that goes on where people are like, oh, but they're rich, so they must be smart. And because they've done one thing successfully, anything they do must be successful. I'm like, no, actually, there's a lot of things they've done that are not successful. You could look at Amazon's track record. I mean, hell, Alexa's lost $26 billion. Even the Wall Street Journal wrote about it, right? It's not everything they do works. The Fire Stick is, their TV thing, dead. Bezos knows when to quit things. The difference here is this is not about actually doing it. It's about keeping the hype machine going because they want to deflect from the fact that people on the ground are getting pissed off about these data centers. But more importantly, they have to keep the growth stock story going because without this $1.4 trillion that's being invested in data centers, and oh, by the way, for what? Because AI revenues are nowhere near justifying that, especially when you realize that GPUs, unlike the railroads, unlike the channel, unlike the fiber that telcos put down in the 90s before they went bankrupt, that last for decades, GPUs don't last for decades. So if those data centers don't pay off in 5 years, there's a lot of pain that's coming with it, right?
Well, here's the thing, because you said 5 square kilometers of stuff, and you mentioned this in an article a while back, is that and now that we're having the new threat that Putin might be deploying his own brilliant pebbles, what's that going to do to a 5 square kilometer?
It's gonna make about 50 square kilometers of shrapnel is what it's going to do, which will then do the rest of the damage that needs to get done. You don't have to put a bunch of pebbles up, just a few that do the job, because you're not going to move a 5 square kilometer array out of the way of incoming debris. It's not like you can move a satellite up or down or left or right. That thing doesn't move fast, right? So where it gets interesting, and I got to shout out this podcast before we run out of time. If you haven't listened to the Better Offline podcast or read the newsletter, Ed Zitron out in the Bay Area is incredibly, he makes me look like an optimist when it comes to AI and data centers. This guy is so, the AI bubble is bullshit. And if you listen to his stuff and you read his writing, he's not wrong. And he just did a great 3-part series on, which I highly recommend we listen to. When the CEO of Enron has to send out an internal memo to his own employees, not Enron, sorry, of NVIDIA, has to send a thing out to his own employees saying, we're not Enron. It kind of makes you go, well, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Why would you
would you
ever
say
that?
Why do you say that? Because when you start looking at some of the stuff that's happening under the hood, and you look at all the connections between the companies that are doing deals with themselves and each other, like say, I'm going to lend money to a company so they can become a customer of mine, and they're going to pay me in equity, and this weird cycle keeps going. It's people are starting to ask questions that are really uncomfortable, and then you see it with like Oracle stock starting to come back down and a few others because they have gotten way over their ski tips in terms of how much they have been doing. Yeah, I think we're running out of time. So to me, there are like a whole list of things around here. But then SoftBank, which blows me away.
Oh,
SoftBank
don't get me
selling
started.
all of their crown jewels. They're selling their Nvidia. They're selling their all their other major holdings. Even their T-Mobile, their Deutsche Telekom, all of it in order to fund OpenAI to the tune of $20-something billion.
And
Like
here
all I have to
they
say
could
is
have.
again, all I have to say is again on the category of smart people making dumb decisions. SoftBank also backed WeWork. I'm just going to leave it with
WeWork.
that.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Right.
Which, by the way, was just Regis with kombucha and beer.
Right.
But Regis
Right.
is not a growth stock. Regis is a mature stock.
Right.
And you can't have a mature stock valuation if you're investing as a vision fund. So,
But here, just a personal beef, I guess, because SoftBank, we put the proposal before them a year and a half ago. They could have closed our $40 million Series A,
yep.
and now they're doing this, and they keep doing it. They just
And
keep
by the way,
it away.
Engineering is hard for those who don't recognize this. Do you guys know what this is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. That's the model from
2000.
No, it's not. It's not. No.
Oh no, that was their test.
This is the Boeing
Supersonic.
2707 Supersonic Clipper. It was the rival to the Concorde that was originally a swept wing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But then they realized that they didn't know how to build a swept wing that large because the engineering had not actually caught up with their dreams. And so they went to a delta wing. But by then it became too heavy, too expensive. And then you got into the early 70s and then NASA cut their funding and then the thing was shut down.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, space is hard. I'll end with something we've known for decades. Right. And all the people out there now who are boostering and doing all the rest who read some stupid AI generated post and go, oh wow, that sounds so cool. Yeah, it's great. And then somebody points out the pesky little details, and then they call you oh, you don't get it. This was impossible and they did it, and this was impossible and they did it. I'm like, no, we do get it because we've been through it. We've seen this movie.
Right.
And some stuff is really cool and works. And nobody in the space industry, at least from our community, like the Alt Space and the rest, ever doubted that SpaceX could do what they did and that how it would change the industry. Right? No one doubted it.
Yeah,
it was just
we got that grief week after week after week at the peak of the Space Cynic blog.
Yeah.
I know.
We were getting it from everybody. It was nothing but hate.
There are so many walking eagles to be awarded these days.
I know.
Oh my God.
We got 2 minutes. So what's your 5-year prediction and your 25-year prediction?
5-year prediction: we will be in the middle of a massive recession as a result of the AI bubble exploding because the amount of money that's gone into it. The downdraft is going to be worse than the global financial crisis. What was the second one? 25 or 50?
25.
25.
I'll still be alive. Knock on wood. And at that point, we will have celebrated the 15th anniversary of the Chinese base on the moon.
Okay. All right.
But we still won't have anything really meaningful done there. We may, the one wrinkle I'd say is if somebody actually figures out a fusion reactor, doesn't just back a public company into a fusion company, which just happened, by the way.
Just happened, right? Yep, just happened.
But as my CTO and the founder of our company, who actually did his fusion studies at MIT, so not a dumb guy, worked on nuclear reactor Navy on the Topeka, told me, we don't have working fusion yet, so I don't know what the hell they're doing. So I'm just that's like what he said. What's really interesting is that the people who were just shot, not to change the subject too much, but so one of them was actually a classmate of his at MIT. the professor, and they were working on fusion. So ask yourself, like, if fusion actually came around and they actually made it work, who stands to lose and who stands to gain? And when you look at who stands to lose, there's a long list, and they all start in with power companies, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then everything that goes with that. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. That got dark fast. All right. We've gone through Bond villains and Spectre.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We're going to bring it full circle.
We can bring it all around.
Full circle. Wow. Wow.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Beverly, serial entrepreneur, original space cynic, man about town, General Gadfly.
Yeah.
Love you, man. Love having you on this show, and we'll do it again soon. If nothing else, I'll see you in March.
Next time it won't be a surprise.
Right.
Okay. Cool.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much. Okay, folks. So obviously there will be no show this coming Thursday or next Thursday for that matter, as they are vaguely important days. You know what they are. Enjoy them. However, next Monday, the 29th, 1 week from today, will be our either 2025 closing or 2026 warm-up show, depending on how you look at it, with our guests. Ready for this? It's none other than the original space podcaster himself, Dr. David Livingston. We'll see you there. As always, 8 p.m. Eastern. For Michael Lane and Sean Key and our surprise guest, Shepard Lee, I am Thomas Andrew Olson. Keep watching the skies.